Welcome, Danny, in this interview, and I would like to thank you for accepting this invitation. It means a lot to us because we just need to know what's going on from people who live in US, what's going on there in the one day that is sharing us from the probably historical election that we will see what's going on tomorrow, and we will see if truth will win or we will go the way that we wish it never existed. Okay, so Danny, we know who you are. You are one of these Disclosure Project top secret military witnesses that were testify in National Press Club in Washington, D.C. in 2001. Am I right?
Yes, I was one of 20 witnesses that before the mainstream media of the world in 2001, National Press Club, we were backed by over 500 military intelligence witnesses.
Okay. You know what? Instead of me reading from your website, you could just tell something about yourself, and you could just tell us what prompted you into this path that you are on now, path of the truth, and what prompted you to tell us the truth.
Well, my military experience goes way back to 1969. As you know, my testimony is a small fragment of a huge picture. That's just complementing that. The ships were reporting discs, flying saucers coming out of the ocean. Official secret reports going to the Chief of Naval Operations. This caught my attention, and I've been, researching and seeking it ever since. The other witnesses that I joined, we're talking about, that 57 different species already categorized by 1989. There was bases on the other side of the moon. The astronauts were told to keep secret what happened when they went to the moon. NASA's airbrushing the UFOs out. Nukes being shut down. Presidents, CIA directors, heads of intelligence, all being denied access illegally. That's what prompted this event. We've had 0-point energy for many decades. We don't need nuclear, oil, and coal. We had, back in October 1954, we developed anti-gravity, 20 years behind Nazi Germany. So we have faster than light craft that was developed back in the 50s. We haven't needed rockets. All these explosive testimonies, myself being an ex-ABC newsman, I was looking at, it was the largest event in the history of the National Press Club. And I'm looking at, the place is packed, 22 cameras in the back row. I'm listening to what these other witnesses are, each one of us stated after we gave our testimony that in front of the cameras that we're willing to testify under oath before a congressional hearing. I looked at this and I looked at what the testimonies were saying of the other witnesses, and I thought, my God, how could this not change everything if all the people at home watching television would see these testimonies? But naively, in 2001, I didn't know what Operation Mockingbird was. I didn't realize that the complete control of all the mainstream.
And when did you find out about the Operation Mockingbird?
Operation Mockingbird, Alan Dulles was responsible for starting that, and he was infamous for the Nazi infiltration, which goes into a history you have to understand of how Nazi Germany basically infiltrated into the United States to create a matrix of perception to take over. They rewrote the history of World War II, or the Rockefeller Foundation, 1946. 1950, Operation Mockingbird took over the mainstream media outlets. They started with 400 journalists. Hollywood, they started Project Dove, started with The Day the Earth Stood Still, influencing movies that have to do with extraterrestrials. Anyway, they created Nazi Germany had a plan before the end of the world called Weltanschauungskrieg, means worldview warfare. They planned to infiltrate in and create a matrix of perception. And, you know, the Nazis escaped. You know, it was like 250,000 Germans, and the top scientists went down to Argentina, Antarctica, where they had a base. James Forrestal sent Admiral Byrd down there to attack the base. Operation High Jump, they were defeated.
Plus Operation Paperclip, where all those scientists were brought to US.
Paperclip, they brought them in not only into the aerospace, but the biomedical, pharmaceutical corporations in high positions. So they effectively infiltrated. So by the time you know, in 1952, they flew over the Capitol building to intimidate both Truman and Eisenhower. And so during the Eisenhower administration, which was very eventful, of all this interaction with the Nazis and the extraterrestrials, somewhat of an agreement surrender was made. And ever since that time, every single president, CIA director, heads of intelligence has been denied access. And that's what basically started the National Press Club, was because, you know, after they denied Kennedy and Carter and Clinton and CIA director James Woolsey, you know, they found there was a leak NRO document that showed these operations, reverse engineering, extraterrestrial at S4, you know, near Area 51.
Yes.
And this was presented to the head of intelligence of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Vice Admiral Thomas Wilson, at a Pentagon meeting with Dr. Greer, astronaut Edgar Mitchell, and Commander Willard Miller. And the admiral was basically told to back off unless he would lose rank, and if he didn't immediately drop the matter. And he was furious because in his constitutional authority, he should have been given access, if anybody. And so what happened was he basically told Dr. Greer, you know, to get your people together and go before, they were willing to testify under oath, to go before the mainstream media of the world. And that's basically how the 2001 event happened, was because of the green light that the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff gave in order to reveal this to the public. But the trouble is that the mainstream media completely controls the perception of the public, and they do what's called a limited hangout, which means that they make it sound in all these explosive testimonies to make it sound as though they wanted to have a congressional hearing on just the reality of UFOs, you know, which isn't going to grab anybody's attention. And this was just 4 months before the 9/11 event, and that grabbed everybody's attention at that point.
May I ask you a question? Do you think that this fact that we've been lied about all these UFO, it is only related to UFO or something else? Is there a bigger agenda behind? Because you see, we can hear all those theories. Some of them are crazy, some of them aren't, about depopulation, about agenda to New World Order, in example. Do you think it might be related with that or not really?
Everything is related. When you dig in deeply at all this stuff, you find everything is related. No doubt the globalists, the eugenicists, the banking elite that actually funded the Nazis into power. You know, there is an agenda to maintain the world. And I had 10 years experience with this, meeting with scientists and inventors around the planet. And they murdered and received national security orders, trying to, thousands of inventions ever since the Invention Secrecy Act in 1951. We haven't been able to release anti-gravity and free energy and all these incredible technologies that could, you know, change the world. And the stuff that they have, you know, in in the black projects and the secret space programs. And in fact, you know, when we went to Washington and inspired a hacker there in the UK where you're at, you know, Gary McKinnon,
Barry McKinnon, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted him 70 years in prison because he revealed to the public that the U.S. Navy has a secret space program with huge kilometers-long spacecraft, non-terrestrial officers, and this program was launched back in the 1980s. You know, and people are starting to. That goes into a whole nother discussion. You know, the people are starting to come forward 20 years later because they're having memory recall. They have such advanced technologies that they can actually alter a person's memory so they don't remember their enlistment service in these programs. I mean, it keeps its own best secrecy because it sounds like such a far-fetched science fiction movie to what we've been indoctrinated from since birth, that it keeps its own best secrecy because it just sounds too amazing, too far-fetched.
That's why the Operation Dove take place, and our perception is being changed, and we've been led to believe that this is all science fiction, but in reality, that technology is just like there. It's out there, it can be reached, can be used, but obviously we've been denied access to it, and well, we need to suffer because of that, yeah. And could you please just tell us something about the plan, because you just beautifully started to talk about President Eisenhower, and you mentioned with Laura Eisenhower that there is a plan that is very likely that now it's rolling out in the front of our eyes, and as a result of this plan, we've got all those global events that keep us locked in our homes. And well, could you just tell us something more about that? How the plan is related to those events that we've got now?
Yeah, the plan, the
Yes.
plan that was created, that was, you know, we spoke about the you know, Gary McKinnon, the secret space program, and, you know, basically verifying that such a operation is real. Witnesses have come forward. There's two, Michael Gerloff and Randy Kramer, both said that during President Eisenhower's presidency, that he set up an institutional safeguard to protect our constitutional republic in the future, and that the people who saw what was going on, they didn't want it to go down the path that they saw it was going after the basically the surrender to the Nazi alliance. And so they had set up this future institutional safeguard to become active in the future. I believe this probably was instigated when Nelson Rockefeller, who restructured the MJ-12 CIA operations for Eisenhower, when Eisenhower attempted to see what was going on in Area 51, they denied him access, and he threatened to go in with the First Army at Colorado. He said he's going to rip this thing apart, and unless he was given access. So they allowed two CIA agents, which saw there was like 9 saucer crafts. Some were German, some were extraterrestrial, along with extraterrestrial beings down at S4, and they gave them a report. There was a witness that gave testimony of this. And, you know, so here a 5-star general is being denied access. And so what I believe happened was, judging by all the indications, is that this plan was set up by, it was a U.S. Marine Corps special section that has been attempting. There's been multiple crime families. You have to understand the Bushes, the Clintons, Obama.
We know.
And you know,
We
Clinton.
know those names, yes.
Yes, and you know, the Bidens, or you know, new information is coming out on them and all their connections with China, and
feel free to talk about that. I've I've attended to Dr. Sala webinars, and he's talking a lot about this tension that is building up between US and China because of the space that they are trying to grab. So feel free to talk about that too, Dan.
Oh, 1 second.
No problem.
Mark, I'm in the middle of a show with London right now. Okay. Anyway, my nephew is going to come over.
Yeah.
Let's see. Back to the plan. And so Eisenhower set this plan, and with all of the crime families that have controlled that position of commander-in-chief, what happened was military intelligence essentially in 2015 asked Donald Trump to run for presidency in order to fill that commander-in-chief position. Now, the Bilderberg meetings, who they set up back in 1954 during President Eisenhower's presidency, they control the media outlets. They control also who are they going to select for the president or leader of a country. And they had, in 2016, selected Hillary to carry on the agenda. And so it was totally unexpected that Trump won the election. And so he is working with military intelligence. They have been doing this for some time, and they have been attempting since 2017 to alert the public, having to use back channels of the internet because they have the complete control of the mainstream media. There's 6 corporations that control mostly everything you see and hear. And
exactly.
so they cannot reach the public that way. And so what they're doing is going on the back channels, and we can't say that 17th letter of the alphabet because of certain reasons, because of the extreme censorship going on.
Exactly.
But they are essentially, there's nothing been racist, violent, Nazi cult or anything like that, nor have they ever said JFK Jr. is alive. But they have been simply just asking the public questions and having the public verify these answers for themselves. And how much better credibility can you get than millions of people looking into what these questions are and answering them? And all of a sudden it's developed a huge following. This is why it is the worst nightmare of those who are attempting to control the public's perception, because the mainstream media is attacking it and calling it a deranged conspiracy cult that's violent and on all these things.
I've seen that on BBC. I've seen a lot, and I laugh out loud. Honestly, I couldn't believe when I
and the internet platforms, thousands and thousands of accounts are been deleted. The censorship is extreme. Why are they so afraid of the public looking into certain questions and verifying these questions? You have to ask that question. So this is the plan that is becoming active, which is protection of our constitutional republic against this infiltrated domestic enemy.
I am so glad that you said that, because I've had countless discussions with people about the 17th letter of the alphabet. Believe me, nobody takes that seriously. I mean, nobody outside of the circle of ufologists, okay, let's say. They think this is a hoax. They think it's fake news, yes, or something like that. And honestly, when I start to talk to them, when I give them arguments, then suddenly it's just like, well, probably it might be something about that, but okay, let's not talk about this. And you know, this is a shame because this is wrong in my opinion. Because if people are seeking the truth, well, they should hear all those arguments that are available. Yeah, not only from mainstream media. Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
you are right.
such widespread,
Mm-hmm.
intense attacks on mainstream media and
Yeah.
censorship on online media. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the person, watching CNN, MSNBC,
Yeah.
New York Times, Washington Post, any of the, they have a huge dozens and dozens of media outlets that they all control, and you can tell by the talking points are all the same that they share.
Exactly. Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
yeah, when people, I think that the problem is that people don't understand the history that has been hidden from them,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
and that our information systems have been infiltrated uh, by a domestic enemy that has an agenda that is not in the interest of the American people nor the people of the world.
Exactly. Mhm. That's exactly, you are that right about that. And that's what needs to be explained. So you talked about plan and you talked how this is related to those events that are now, that we can see now. Yeah. So what do you think? Well, let's get into that topic. What do you think is an outcome for tomorrow's election?
Well, I'm looking at the country, and all over the place is a massive support for Trump, but I don't put anything past the other party of what they could, pull. I mean, there's nothing that they won't do. Nothing. The end justifies the means for them. So
Yeah.
I'm your guess is as good as mine. My guess is
Mm,
that it'll be very suspicious if Biden wins, but if Trump
yes.
wins, there will be, uh, it'll be dragged out. They want to drag it out as long as possible, and I mean, Nancy Pelosi's talk about doing a military coup, doing, dragging him out,
Mhm.
anything possible. The reason why they're so afraid of him continuing on for another 4 years is that all this evidence that they have, and they have a lot of evidence, is going to be brought out, and the public is going to see what these people are tied into and the criminal syndicate networks that they are connected with, which having to do. This is why Trump's done executive orders against human rights abuse, child
Yeah.
trafficking,
Mhm.
corruption, and changes the Uniform Code of Military Justice. In other words, the trials aren't dragged out forever. Military courts are expedient. Uh, trials.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
hundreds of thousands of sealed indictments ready to be unsealed.
It was a
Um,
year ago, 150,000 or something like that. I don't know how
oh, it's way
many
over
more.
200,000.
Really? Oh, there you go. Over 200,000. Yeah, there you go. Mhm.
Yeah. So what's going to happen? I believe there's a huge divide in America right now. Huge, because the media has weaponized the public into a
Yes.
divide. They divide us politically with race and everything they can find to put a wedge in. So we don't see who the true enemy is, which is behind the curtain, manipulating the perceptions. But I believe what will unify the left and right extreme views on this whole thing is then they start to reveal that some of these people are involved in things where the human rights abuse and the harming of children. I believe both sides will agree that that is not something they want to be behind, and it's my hope that if indisputable huge amounts of evidence is brought forth to the public that everybody can see that, the media has bamboozled a lot of people.
Exactly.
And
That's the magic word that you use, undeniable. With Laura Eisenhower, you use that word, which is brilliant, because that's exactly what describes that situation that we are now. People don't have to believe it, but when all those proofs, all the evidence will come on the surface, that's it. That deep state, well, I shouldn't say that word, yeah? Well, probably.
Day one of the 17th letter of the alphabet, when they first came out in October of 2017, was the first day that John Durham was assigned to get all this information ready. And he's been busy working behind the scenes. And, if you look at his background of taking down huge crime syndicates, he's the man for the job.
Yeah. And that's why we need people like you who are speaking out and spreading the truth, because otherwise we won't be hearing. Never, ever, not from mainstream media. Okay, Dan, and could we come back to the topic that is, again, the plan? Because you see, there are some parts that are, for me, I cannot understand how the plan could be hidden for so many years, and it would be developed, on the background with all this control that we've got. How could it be hidden from the public and from cabal or from the deep state, from all those people who are controlling everything?
Like my fellow witness friend Clifford Stone, talking about the 57 different species, as
I know
people,
him.
people
I am
say,
very familiar with him.
Government can't keep secrets. They can keep secrets.
All right.
Yeah, they can keep secrets for some time. Well, look at look at the history of the world. Look at how they completely infiltrated in. And if you control education, if you control the media,
exactly,
and if you extend your plan over decades, children being born in and indoctrinated in a particular way, and you think you won the war with Nazi Germany, and you think, we went to the moon in 1969 and great accomplishment, but Nazis were there in 1942.
And then everybody knows that, so nobody, no matter what kind of evidence you found, everybody knows that we landed in the moon, that we this and that, and well, there is no discussion about that. I know exactly what you mean, because I've come across that a lot.
As William Tompkins says, first of all, it's not a moon, and second of all, it's not our moon.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
We were warned off.
I am familiar with this story.
1969. We did go to the moon. We did land. They made it there, but they cut the video, audio feeds. Still, information leaked out. Ham radio operators picked up, Neil Armstrong saying, "Oh my God, these babies are huge. They're, the alien spacecraft lined up along the far edge of the crater." Donna Hare, a fellow witness, worked at NASA for 20 years. She said, "I don't know how they do it. Some people work there for a long time. They have no idea what's going on the secret side of NASA." When you start to research and discover this, you get two reactions. One's kind of like this incredible feeling of, wow, we have all this potential. We have anti-gravity versus spacecraft. We have, you know, in these space programs, they have med beds where they can, if you chop your arm off, they can regrow an arm, they can cure any disease. They've got all this incredible technology. They can go to other galaxies and everything. Everything that you've seen in Star Trek and all the science fiction movies you've seen have done that and beyond. I mean, but then again, when you start to discover that the entire human race has been hijacked technologically, keeping us in like this little kind of Truman Show bubble of believing that, you know, we need oil, nuclear, and coal, and we need rockets to go into space, and, you know, and everything that we've been taught in school is mostly a lie.
Yeah, that's right. Pete Peterson was talking about that too, and he said, yeah, everything what is in what we are taught in our school, it's mostly a lie, and we should rewrite our history, we should rewrite our science, what is possible, what is not possible. And as a matter of fact, there are not many things that are impossible because our consciousness, and I believe Laura is talking about that we are now in the revolution. Now we are, it's becoming revolution of our consciousness when we will grow up and we will realize who we really are, yeah? And that's probably what's our future.
Yeah, the biggest challenge is that, you know, it's just hard for the average person indoctrinated on into this world that, you know, through the school and television and everything, to believe, especially when you see it coming from multiple sources, to believe that all of it is orchestrated for a nefarious agenda that is against the public, that is for these globalist elite that want to reduce the population and want to have bring in a new world order. The Constitution of the United States is a big obstacle to them, you know, with free speech and, you know, the fact that we're, you know, the Second Amendment in order to protect against a treasonous government. You know, this is why they want to take away our guns. This is why they want to, you know, completely revamp the Constitution so that it'd be more along the lines of Communist Chinese Party than the United States.
Yeah, as it was said, tell lie big enough, nobody is going to believe it, and you can just hide it in open. You can speak about that openly, because nobody is going to believe you that something so deep like this manipulation of human manipulation is true. Nobody believes that. Yeah,
you know, they've embedded themselves, you know, over decades. They have embedded themselves throughout our government, you know, the Department of Justice, and they've embedded themselves politically, obviously, and
financially.
They're all taking orders from the top, you know, and the top is the people who set the agendas for the Bilderberg meetings, you know, the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, that have connections to all of the mainstream media outlets, and also the connections with, you know, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. All of those have origins in the CIA, DARPA operations that initially, you know, funded some of these operations. So, of course, you would want to control, and, you know, Snowden leak, but not necessarily in the benefit of everyone, because the white hats have taken over the NSA. But you know, they have huge perception management operations going on online.
So, in your opinion, where is the top? what people are on the top, because we can hear about, well, the criminal syndicate. Nobody tells names except those obvious names that you've already mentioned, just like Bush, Clintons, and so on and so forth. So what do you think is behind the top, and who is there?
Yeah, I think besides the obvious names, George Soros and the Rothschilds, Rockefeller families, and, they have 13 families of the Illuminati. I don't have any, but you've got to be pretty assured that, the people who really head, the Bilderberg meetings and these other operations that are not in the spotlight, the names you don't hear, that are the influences behind the visible people, that the names that people know, they're, and the 300 corporations, that coordinate together. So there's coordination there. It's obvious if you do any research. And
I've seen that and I've read about that.
Yeah, and this is for, they have justifications for the operations that they do, but there's, as far as population goes, if we had anti-gravity, there's plenty of room on this planet for everybody. In fact, we can go to other planets if we need to. And there's doesn't need to be,
unless they're already occupied, because there is a great chance that some folks live there on other planets.
I mean, there doesn't need to be all the suffering on this planet. I mean, we can do away with the pharmaceutical industries. We can do away with oil, nuclear, and coal. We can everything that is being weaponized against us. You got to think about all the things that they do with everything from fluoride, the GMOs, to everything, and the pharmaceuticals don't really address the core issues of health. And not to mention, every president other than Trump has been involved in some kind of war. I was in combat action in Vietnam because of LBJ, reversed everything that Kennedy did and escalated the war over there. Based on another false flag. We have so many false flags. In fact, at the press club, we revealed all the false flags that were happening. The first was the Soviets. The next was terrorists. This was 4 months before 9/11, by the way. And then there's rogue nations. And, you have North Korea, which they attempted to nuke Hawaii, but the secret space program was able to take it out. The next in line is asteroids. That would be our next false flag event, which are already doing.
Do you think it will happen? Do you think it will happen? The false asteroid?
Well, they have that. It's kind of interesting that the CV-19 situation has shut down most of all the observatories, and that they have what's called rods of God, which can simulate an asteroid event. And every time they do one of these false flag events, they always do an exercise just before it. You think of Event 201 with the thing, and even 9/11, they were doing an exercise, and several other I could bring up also. But they're recently, I think it was in September, they were doing an exercise off the coast of California of an asteroid coming in, hitting. So, if we get an asteroid event happening here to distract everyone, and of course, the final card, which got a lot of attention, was the alien card. We have, an alien invasion attack type of thing, but we already know they have the technology to pull that off a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Dan. So last question. Do you think when Donald Trump wins election and he will rule for another 4 years, do you think we can expect the end of pandemic and of this, well, COVID-19 nonsense, in my opinion. Okay, and we can expect to release all the secret technology like 0 point energy technology and all those healing technology. Do you think it will happen?
Oh, well, that's a big question. Well, it's interesting that during his inauguration speech, he was talking about, healing, I forget the exact words, but something, the mysteries of space and healing disease and, and
Yeah.
all these things. He wrote his own inauguration speech, and I understand from sources that he did a secret executive memo to release the anti-aging and the, free energy technologies. If as far as what will happen if he's president is I'm hoping that the whole world will see the evidence being brought forth, and these people who have been doing these horrendous crimes against humanity,
Yeah.
justice is brought to them and taken out of positions of power and affecting our entire planet, and that we will see a world that just seems like in a science fiction dream all of a sudden evolve, that these technologies are rolled out, and that a new era on Earth that has not been experienced before will be able to be released for the benefit of all humankind.
And I
There was another
believe,
part of your question. I think I missed it. It was a two-part question. I'm not sure if I answered it fully.
well, actually, there was mostly you answered that mostly, because you see, I was asking about technology, I was asking about the future, what you think it's gonna be, and what will be when Donald Trump wins. So I believe you just answered that, but tell
That's
you
my
what.
hope. And from
Oh, me too.
indications I've seen, that I know these technologies are available. They've been suppressed, they've been withheld, and they've been because of these, as Eisenhower put it, the misplaced powers, unwarranted influences, that have kept humanity at this stage. Because if they release this technology, it would allow humanity to evolve. It
May I
would
ask you a
allow.
question? May I ask you a question about that
Yes, yeah.
technology? Did you see it? Did you see bits and pieces of this technology? Did you see how it works?
Oh yeah, yeah. It pulls from the vacuum of space. You have to understand that
Wow.
there's no such thing as free energy, but there is ways of converting energy from one form into another. We don't understand all forms of energy. Tesla understood, the radiant form of energy, which is one form. I've seen many, both solid state and rotational type of devices. There was one I flew down with Professor Loiter. With Dr. Greer set up a corporation where we had the database of about 300 scientists and inventors, and we flew down to the Dominican Republic. He had an energy device that was producing 500 watts of power with less than 1 watt going on. We saw this, we measured it. I was flying back down to schematic blueprint it out and then send it through multiple different courier services in case we get whacked on the way back. Because when I flew back down there, the inventor said, just before you got here, 2 agents that identified themselves as CIA said, if this works, you're dead. And so what happened was he completely disassembled the entire thing. And so it's been like that. Scientists, been murdered.
Yes.
Many of them receive these national security orders, and they can't. They have incredible inventions. We have people have come up with anti-gravity, free energy,
Yes.
thousands of solutions, and in health and everything. that it basically is a threat to profitable, energy, pharmaceutical industries, that these things are suppressed.
That's brilliant. That's really brilliant. That's priceless information that you just gave us. And I would like to thank you for this interview. And let's hope we can record some more your thoughts about that, and we could discuss that further in deeper details. Thank you very much, Dan, for this interview.
My pleasure. I'll just share my notes. Is at thewebmatrix.net, a media company out of Hollywood, knowing I was an ex-ABC newsman and a witness, wanted me to write an article on who controls the agreed upon reality through the media and why do they fear exposing the extraterrestrial reality. And so the only way I found to be able to understand this is to plugging all these witnesses and documents that I became familiar with in a chronological timeline up to present day, going back to the beginning of the 20th century. And just my notes to share, they all have references. And so, I think it's important that everybody does their own research. You come to your own conclusions. Don't just watch the mainstream media and trust that it's giving you the full picture. You have to see what many of these witnesses are disclosing that has been hidden from humanity.
Dan, my apology, because that's the part that I missed. And obviously, you just gave us your permission to translate your website, which we are doing now. And we will be displacing it on the internet. And it will be exactly the same form as it is your website, with all information about you, about your copyright, about all links that you just put there. So I can assure you nothing is going to be missing, and it will be exactly the same, because this knowledge is something that people need to know.
Well, I'm very honored that you were going to that tremendous amount of work. And
my pleasure.
It's not a professional site by any means. It's just basically my online notepad, but it has a lot of elements that I think are important for people to understand historically what has led us up to today. If you don't understand what has led us up to today, you can be manipulated through the control of the media, and we don't want to do that. We want to know what the truth is, and we want to have the entire planet liberated from these nefarious controlling elements.
Yeah, exactly. Dana, about your website, give yourself more credit, because it's been written by professional guy, means you, okay? It's simple, it's easy to read, and that's what you need. That's exactly what you need. You need information, not a lot of commercials or just like flashing pictures or whatever, which distracts you, from the important information. So your website is perfect, in my opinion. That's why, for me, when I bumped onto your website, it was just like a revelation for me. Wow, I was going to do that. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to reinvent a wheel, because there is no point for that.
When I testified in Washington and I discovered the testimonies of these 500 witnesses, that is what and the documents, I was unable to get through Office of Naval Intelligence, my report of, 70-foot diameter glowing disc coming out of the ocean off port bow of the ship, but many of the other witnesses brought official, U.S. Navy, Air Force documentation to represent that. And so I took much of this documentation and the witness testimonies and started that as the foundational basis of which I plugged in. And then as I continued the research since 2001,
Quite a long time.
All these different events that have happened through history, when you look at them through history, all of a sudden it starts to give you a bigger picture of what
Yeah,
has been hidden.
exactly. That's why I am so captured by your website, because this is everything makes sense. Everything.
No,
When you read
I'm
it,
so honored. Thank you.
yeah, step by step, you read it. Yeah, this led to this, that led to that. Yes, and that's why we are where we are now. Yeah, people can say, well, fake news, fake news. That's okay. It's their problem.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
imagine the world we could
yeah,
have, a different kind of
exactly,
world without these deceptions and these manipulations and the release
exactly.
of these advanced
Hmm.
technologies. I mean, it'll be
Yeah.
like a Star Trek-like civilization that we can exchange with other off-planet cultures, and it will
Hmm.
shoot our evolution through the roof. It's going to be, it's a psychological. Uh, it's got to be eased in because of the decades of false indoctrination. So whatever they're planning in order to reveal this to the public, it's got to be some type of masterful psychological masterpiece that can
Hmm.
take us from where we have been brought to realize that this whole other reality has been hidden from us.
Exactly. May I ask you another question? Sorry, I promised that the last one.
I love questions.
How did the interview with Dr. Sala go? Because you mentioned something with Laura that you'd have an interview with Dr. Sala. Did it go ahead?
Yeah. My Facebook page, if it's still up, Laura's got taken down,
Yeah.
is facebook.com/disclosure witness. I put the interview with Dr. Sal there and my co-host Jill, and we went into a lot of things, regarding China, and
Uh-huh.
the threat that China can pose in space, and the importance of having the secret space force, which is basically the avenue in order to release these advanced technologies. We've had a secret space program, since
Hmm.
going back to the 50s, but we
Yeah.
and that goes into a whole history of how the Air Force and the Navy had their own separate programs, and two different extraterrestrial alliances where the Navy is working with a more benevolent, much higher advanced technology. And that's how the US Navy's secret space program was able to develop, that Gary McKinnon found in the Naval
Yes.
Space Command computers. So yeah, we have an entire, if we can expose this criminal elite and release this information for the good of all humanity, we'll have a whole new world.
Let's hope that's our future, because I believe, at least me, people are sick of what's going on now, and
Mm.
there's time for change. And let's hope that tomorrow's outcome of the election will bring that change to us.
Indeed.
Yeah, so thank you very much once more, Dan, and I hope I will have opportunity to talk to you again, and see you next time.
I look forward to do it again sometime.
Okay.
We will always have much more to say, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much.